with your host, Ed, the Pagan Hubbard, as you will know, and speak with me. Tonight I'm out here being so happy to actually be back on the air and to be able to maintain a schedule. Over the last couple of weeks, actually since my birthday, February 10th, remember that was a great, glorious day. We had all these astrological symbols, and the idea that I was about to turn over into basically my solar return was over and everything else. And then the next day, an event happened. And since then, I've been that. But we went to the last time we were going to NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters, and we learned a lot about how fast television networks work and where the pagan world is fitting into it. So we came back there, and then as you knew, I came back immediately to what was an undeniably difficult situation. And I spent the next 5 weeks moving on, and today we're in Danville. And so that's an update. As you've been watching Reverend Don Lewis's pages, you can see that his midday show. He's talked about his adventures, but in that process, it consumed all of my time and and a great deal of my patience and things of that nature. So I want to thank all of you for being patient and waiting until we get back to return and continue the support that made it possible to have a real elder care story later on this week. We're going to talk about elder care and a little bit more about how it worked and what worked in this latest crisis of elder care with Reverend Don. But tonight I'm going to talk about the pagan heart. And I've been noticing that. So, as you know, the Parliament of the World's Religions is coming, and they're basically a call to conscience, defending freedom and human rights as their central thing. And as you know, I'm putting out, and maybe you don't, I'm doing Journey to the Parliament, a movie that will be presented and premieres at the Parliament of World's Religions. And I think it'll be very interesting, and it's a great story. If you have a story about your journey to the Parliament, contact me. But what is the pagan heart? Well, at the core, I think one of the things I think pagans read. So you think that the pagan brain, and I'll talk about that another time. But the pagan brain is this sort of constant capture of thoughts, intuitions, readings, all sorts of different things. And a lot of us have a tradition and an area which is very, very cerebral, intellectual. Certainly, the internet has promoted the intellectual, the classes, the lessons, the speeches, the talks, the memes. They almost all deal in the realm of the intellectual. So that's the pagan brain. A vast and powerful, often scary, often wonderful, beyond awe and wonder concept. Now, what is the pagan heart? The pagan heart, first of all, the pagan heart is not just pumping blood through the system. The pagan heart, as we visualize it, is the source of energy that pours through the universe, a heart chakra energy that connects us to each other and all of nature. And so there would be, what do you mean guilty? Guilty of what, Alan? Alan Salmi's on board. I'm so glad. Sedwar is on. Good evening. I'm glad to see you. Yeah. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm glad to be seen. But what is that pagan heart? And Alan, I just got it. Boy, I'm out of practice. Alan, as you know, is one of the few people I know whose heart has been repaired, replaced, and built out of different types of components. And the latest is technological. And he's died and come back to us. And he has an interesting story. But we will talk about it to Alan, which I'm hoping to have on here on more on this. But we're going to talk about, so when I talk about the pagan heart, Alan's a perfect example. I think because he, even though his situation in and around his heart, the chakra energies, he's come back twice to us to kind of talk and explain and to be with us in this realm. And it's because his heart is so courageous. He lives a courageous life, a brave life. So, what is at the heart of the pagan heart? What is at the core of a pagan heart? What is at the core of a pagan heart is emotion, emotive energy, energy that can transform the world. We see it as love. We hear it talk about love, but it is that emotional energy that pours through our chakra energy that combines us all. That does so, and that pumps it through us and then pumps it out there so that we're emanating and radiating on a constant basis. And so that is one of the strongest beliefs. So of course, other emotions are in there too: anger and hate and fun and love and joy and awe and wonder. Awe is when your mind is basically so overwhelmed that your heart kicks in to explain the image that you're seeing. And wonder is that which overwhelms both mind and heart to give you an experience that's an ecstasy. And so, but what else in the pagan heart? Well, I think ultimately the pagan heart, with its emotive, powerful energies, allows us to be courageous, brave, and fiercely independent. And I think that is where the heart is. And in that process, we don't necessarily, as a community, share as much common ground as other beliefs because we do believe that every person ultimately has their own heart that they can share, but it is on their terms, their consent, their autonomy. And when that they do give heart, and when they do accept heart, and when we unify our hearts, it becomes stronger and deeper because of the idea of consent. Because we are consenting to this alliance of the heart, this joining of the energy. And there's real energy there. I mean, if you go into it, our bodies are electrical magnetical. We're finding out that more and more in the scientific realm, where we've always known it in the metaphysical, the mind realm, and all of that. And so that it does now can be detected. They actually can detect magnetic fields around your heart and that they move, and the energy we project is so much farther than they realize. So let's talk about what's in the pagan heart. So the pagan heart right now is a defiant heart. I think it's defiant. What about you? Do you think it's defiant? What do I mean by defiant? It does not want to be described. It is essentially not a big believer in describing itself. Yeah, that's interesting. It does not want to be defined. It wants to be self defined, self aware, self love. And at the core, that is one of the things. So they're defiant. But they're also looking for their twin flames or their soulmates or their unions, uh, our unions, all the different ways it combines it to make us a better energy, a bigger tribe. I mean, in the Corellian tradition, I think that as the idea of the great family is the idea of that unified family heart, that we are loved not only between each other, but through time, and that we are loving through time. I think it's one of the greatest parts of the mysteries. I think people just have to experience. Um, that's a good question. The pagan heart allows that to which we wish to see, not just to partake in, but what to see, I believe. And he goes on, or is that the pagan mind? I think that's a good question. I thank you. Uh, I think the pagan that is from the pagan heart. I think our paradigm, our emotional, mental paradigms are primarily through our empathy and our emotions. And that I think is much more. Well, we can talk about them being in the mind, and we can actually talk about them being four chemicals. We won't get into it, that part of it, because that's a biochemical question of where our emotions originate. But for this purpose, um, yes, that's a good way of phrasing it. To be rather to act. Okay, good. I like interactive communications, and we're going to figure out ways to do more of this. Pagan world is that. I'm going to get back. I'm getting back to work. This is like my opening volley. Say, hey, I'm back. But the hardest to be. I mean, simply who you are to be. We often talk about, oh, you can look at your thoughts. Who is it that's looking at your thoughts? So our heart, yeah, we tend to do it. So for us, just simply to be, it's okay to do things, and I think the mind puts us to act. And when the mind and spirit and body, when the mind and the heart and the spirit are all aligned to act, that's magic. That's it. Nothing can stop it. Nothing can really bring it into energy. And I think the heart is the fuel of that because it overturns. Not only does it fuel our body, brings love and energy and grace into our bodies, it doesn't just move around the blood and other chemicals and other blood systems and other things into it. I've been thinking about a lot about hearts because of what I've been going through, and it continues to be the center. It's the single most important center of a living being that is human. Without our heart, we can't do anything. So why shouldn't we be talking about our heart energy far more? Why shouldn't we be looking at our heart as much as we are doing? Why are we not letting ourselves pay attention to it? And that's because of the distraction of the world around us. And I will honestly say the mind gets in the way. But when that heart is really going, that courageous, that bravery, that moment in time where you have to do something, that love, that grief, that anguish. I've seen something, Reese Silver, an actress by name Reese Witherspoon. I hope I got that right, but Reese, she said somewhere before we came here, we made this contract. It says, "Hey, how would you like to go to Earth? It's going to be a very brief period of time, as the way the universe works, but you're going to have all of these emotions. You're going to have all these love and hate and anger and joy and ecstasy and all of these emotions and feeling all these different ways in this very short period of time. And it's going to be such an experience. How could you not be joyous every day, no matter what the emotion is? Because you're the spirit having this wonderful time, having the human experience. And so I think the human heart is that conduit to that joy, to that experience. And quite literally, so let me go ahead and talk about it. They've now found stem cells, brain cells, and other things in the heart. Certain types of neurons that are in the heart that actually appear to think and regulate the heart as well as send signals. So even in that, the heart has its own thoughts. Something we've always said, everything we've always believed in the metaphysical world, Reiki world, and all of that is now being discovered at a deeper and deeper level by medical science, utilizing scientific methodologies and imageries to do so. So we continue to probe ourselves. And I think that's really as a pagan heart. The other thing as a pagan heart is it's a caring, giving heart, and it's a wicked black heart as well. I think this is where I think pagans have the hardest time. They wear so much of their emotions on their sleeves that they have these wonderful giving hearts when they're up, but they have this sort of weird dualism is that when somebody's not good or somebody's done something to them, they become immediately dark hearted, cruel, and wicked. I've seen it over and over again. And I've seen it in the last couple of weeks. And they will then, and in these moments of great joy, they'll say, "Yes, we're all happy. We're all loving. We're all together. We're all of this." And then when they don't like what you have to say or disagree with you, or in some time or in some way decide to take actions even deeper and darker. They advocate it as being that you're wicked, you're evil, you're broken. And there's no gray in the pagan heart. There's very little gray in the pagan heart about how we behave towards each other. We're either fairly empathic, we're very loving, we're very caring, we're very gracious, we're very generous in what we do. Sure, we're all of those things. And then if an event can happen, and instead of having that energy to have that remedial energy or having it, I've seen it, and I've even written the manuals on about which wars and which wars defense manual, they get broken. And then immediately venom goes out. They strike at each other. Reputational combat. That's right. I called it what it is. Reputational combat. Character assassination. We have 1,000 words for this. And we go after their standing in the community, the status amongst your friends, whatever it is, your groups, your circles, your traditions, and you try to have them rejected or pushed out, or even if you have the commandments, try to have them defrocked. I've had that experience just recently, an attempt to try to remove me from my own tradition and to have me defrocked. It's happened to me. And that wicked heart, that wickedness in that heart, wanted to remove me for their own purposes. Now, it did not happen. It was found through and saw through, and it didn't happen. And so I'm very grateful for that. The truth wins out. the love wins out. The support that I received in that process was so strong and so beautiful and so gracious that even when wickedness and darkness come against me, um, I don't worry about it because I know I have love and care and support and energy that I can pull on, and that I too can still give energy, support, and love to others, and that this becomes this great storative and supportive net. And I've seen this inside the pagan world over and over again. We may not have very much money, or we might not have very many things. And that's not true, but we are getting better. But we don't have as many resources, but that's getting better. But what we have, we share. We can help each other and have helped each other, even in the darkest moments, even in the darkest days. There have been moments of despair over my life, but especially over the last things I've been able to talk and to care and to be part of. And people have helped me through that. Not just in terms of helping Don with financials and helping him get there, which has created an elder care miracle within our community. I think it's very important out there. And thank you. But also in ways that are really strong. So let me get back out to what I call the Corellian heart. Now, there's the pagan heart, and I'm at the pagan, so my heart is pagan. And inside that heart, there can be many layers to your heart. There can be many depths to your heart because we're multidimensional beings. What does your fourth dimensional heart look like? Can it love? And that's where I think you see in our tradition as Corellians, we believe in so many selves. There are multiple selves. We understand we are not a singular entity in and of ourselves. We're a singular entity within God, which has many, many different components. God's got us as energies of all sorts, and that we are living a shared life. And in a lot of ways, that Corellian heart, which they often call a fluffy bunny heart. We are tender, we are gentle, we want the best. A lot of people have made fun of us being fantasy oriented, and I've written so many things about it. But at the end of the day, what we are is a family, and we are guided by love. We'd rather not cause harms to others, not because it's painful or we want to hide trauma. Far from it. We work through our trauma, but we want to give safe spaces and safe places and self love, as well as personal love and ways to hug and emotion. We have a hug ministry. Our sacred grandmother leads a hug ministry. Think about that. And what's the important part of this is where I will get more into the Corellian heart or the hugging ministry is a belief that you get heart to heart contact. Your hearts come in together, and you're supposed to have a hug for at least 20 seconds. And that exchanges energies and helps clean out each other's hearts and makes a better connection. Isn't that an amazing idea? That if you hug for somebody for 20 seconds, that it begins to synchronize your hearts. And if those hearts are in love, it's there. If you're an empath, you're going to kind of absorb and help guide somebody out of their pain. If you're both joyful, you can have a hug that is just joyful. You can have a bro hug where you're pounding each other's back. It's anything. I mean, you can have anything. You can have a very gentle grandmother hug, hold you. You can have a weeping one. I've had one. I just had one recently where somebody held me and I cried. I mean, I was crying because I was in not only agony and pain, and a lot of uh, where I was, but I was really needing of a relief. And I got a big hug, and they didn't let me go, and for whatever reason, I just started crying, and that was very relieving. And that hug lasted about 4 or 5 minutes, and that was a real heart connection, and I was able to release something in my heart. So the Corellian heart that I've come to know and love is a supportive, cherishing heart where everybody is still very much independent, and there's a lot of defiance of order and strategy and the idea of orthodoxy and all that. There's not very much of that available in the Corellian heart. No, they want to know love. They want to meet people. They want to do so. I mean, we have the wandering witch traveling all over Europe. We have our friend David, who just got back from Europe, and he's got quite a tale, from what I understand. I don't know anything about it, but he's got a tale, including taking his luggage 6 miles across the Highlands of Scotland. I don't know what it was about, but that's going to be a story we're going to share. We have so many ways to share and be in awe and wonder. We have orders of music to help us with this. So, for us in the Corellian heart, it is about the great family and maintaining this idea that we love each other, we care for each other, and we really want to help and support each other. And while there's some legal structures we deal with and churches that we deal with, um, here we go. We put that up again. That's quite a name. I cannot pronounce it. I'm not even going to try. Good afternoon. That we're going to continue these sort of processes where we open our hearts up. So we have a soft heart, but we also have a hard heart. And the hard heart comes to, and this is where we're going to bring it all around back to the parliament. The hard heart, the warrior's heart, the ironclad heart, is those principles and ideas that we hold important and significant and we won't break on. You have to crush our hearts so thoroughly as to destroy us, which is very, very difficult. We're very defiant, very powerful, very magical group of beings. And though that heart is at the source of it, but it is the idea that we can then stand up and defend others. We can defend ourselves. We can allow our hearts to defend us, our emotions to defend us, our energies to defend us, our connection to the heart chakra to defend us. And sometimes defense can even look like an offense. We can protest. We can move towards building programs which are compassionate. We can do so many things with the heart. And that's what we're bringing to the parliament. What is the pagan heart? The Corellian heart as well, within that sort of thing. What type of heart, the loving heart, are we going to bring to the parliament of world religions? And at the same time, connect those hearts through our crystal webs and through our love and through these daily spells and through these broadcasts to a global population. How do we connect these hearts across a global population? And that's our challenge right now. So I want to thank you to update you. Yeah, we're in Danville. We're going to start up our ministry here. I think it's going to be interesting to do much more of a community activist back in a community and less of the cerebral internet. And I will be back again talking about more about the pagan world in so many different ways. Be back tomorrow night. Tomorrow is Wednesday, 5:31, and we're going to talk about a little bit more about magic. Always. What else do we talk about? We always talk about magic. So blessed be. Send in your questions, Pagan World TV, and join us whenever you choose to.